Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 13th Geo Lecture Series. This is brought to you by the Philippine Geographical Society in partnership with the UP Department of Geography, and this is part of the 40th anniversary celebration of our department. My name is Oni Martinez, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. Just a few reminders before we proceed. First is to kindly keep your microphones on mute during the presentation. We also encourage you to interact by typing your comments, questions, and other things that you would like to share in the chat box here at Zoom. There will be, these questions or comments will be addressed during our open forum. We also ask our participants to please note that this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be made available for viewing after the event. This will be shared through the Department of Geography's YouTube channel. The president of the Philippine Geographical Society and also a professor at the Department of Geography, Professor Eman Garcia, unfortunately will not be able to join us in time for the opening of the program, but because he is participating in another event today, but I have the privilege of reading his opening remarks on his behalf. So allow me to read his message for everyone. On behalf of the Philippine Geographical Society and the Department of Geography, welcome to the 13th lecture in the Geo Lecture Series. Geo serves as a forum to discuss and converse on a range of geographically informed topics among geographers, geography enthusiasts, spatial scientists, researchers, and members of local communities. Together with its forerunner, the PGS Lecture Series, our organization, in partnership with the UP Department of Geography, has successfully accomplished almost 39 talks since its inception in 2021. We rebranded the PGS Lecture Series in line with the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Department of Geography in cooperation with the College of Social Sciences and Philosophy. And we're celebrating the 40th anniversary because we joined the college in 1983. Today, the lecture spotlights the importance of updated land cover data in multi-stakeholder resource planning and management. Now let's take a look at the word cloud generated through the responses that our attendees submitted through the registration form. With the word cloud, we can see that the biggest, most frequently mentioned term that was contributed by our attendees this afternoon is utilization. We can also see terms like modification, management, extraction, zoning. And so these are also related terms. And this is what our audience perhaps are expecting to hear from our respected and speakers for this afternoon. So it would be interesting to see how all of these words will later tie up to today's lecture. So allow me now to introduce our invited speaker for our lecture this afternoon. Professor J Andres Ignacio is an experienced geospatial and environmental scientist with over 3 decades of experience applying GIS remote sensing and spatial analysis to sustainable development and resource management projects. He holds a PhD in geography from the University de Namur in Belgium, an advanced master's degree in bioengineering specializing in geomatics technology from the Université Catholique du Louvain, also in Belgium, and a master's in water resources management from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He also finished a BA in interdisciplinary studies from the Ateneo de Manila University. Dr. Ignacio was the Planning and Geomatics Director at the Environmental Science and Social Change, or ESSC, a leading land cover mapping and community resource management initiatives office organization, which is concerned with a lot of projects, but specifically Dr. Ignacio was focused on Mindanao. He recently also joined the faculty of the UP Population Institute in CSSP as an associate professor, and is also currently teaching a course in our department on environmental geography. So everyone, let's all please give a warm welcome to Dr. Ignacio. Sir, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to note that my favorite number is actually 13, so this is a lucky day for me. Sige, let me, without much further ado, I will share my presentation. Okay, sige. Like it was mentioned by Oni, right? Oni. I've been in the field, no. I've been a practitioner for over 3 decades, and I think what's important here is that what I will be sharing with you are some of the more recent experiences I've had working on the ground using the technology and the theories that we normally tackle in the academe, and how they really apply on the ground and how they are very significant. What makes the impact significant to the local people. So the title of my presentation is Tracking Land Use Change Impacts on the Land and its People. The case of Bukidnon Province in the southern Philippines. So just as context, I've always had this slide since I can remember, no? We need geographic data, and on our ongoing context in the South is that we have a poor understanding of the interactions of biophysical and social processes operating in any given area. Most of the time we just focus on one, either the biophysical or the social processes, but how these actually come together is always been a problem. Lack of accurate, comprehensive, and up-to-date information. And I think at this stage, this is changing rapidly, but the use of the information is still, and the utilization and the uptake is still a major problem as well. The absence of appropriate tools for analysis to serve as the basis for planning. So we all know that kahit may information, kahit may data na available, wala tayong tools para gamitin itong information and bring it further to serve as decision-making tools. So how can we manage a resource or a set of resources if we don't really know where they are, how much exists, and the different relationships they have, no, among each other, and what the different pressures they are subjected to. So in I guess being geographers, we all know that the first ever land cover update using satellite imagery in the whole world was done on the Philippines using spot satellite imagery in 1987 by the Swedish Space Corporation. It was actually a World Bank loan that funded that. And of course, being the first, we are also the guinea pig, no? But we came out, at that time, the Swedish Space Corporation came out with a pretty good estimate, no, or mapping of the land cover of the Philippines. And here, I just extracted the forest cover for the Philippines in 1987. They had 5 major categories for forest: the broadleaf, closed canopy, open canopy, the mossy, pine, and mangrove. The pine can only be visually, from the satellite, can only be distinguished in the Cordillera region, although we also had pine present here in Mindoro and some parts of Zambales, pero it's very faint already. It wasn't visible anymore. Of course, you had the mangroves all over the Philippines at that time. And one thing that's important to note was that mossy, there was only one patch of mossy forest in Mindanao. And for those of you who've been to Mindanao, hindi, it's really, you can't really say na walang mossy forest, no? It's high elevation forest. But just a fun fact, during the 80s, mid-80s, Mindanao was considered very dangerous, peace and order-wise, and the Swedish Space Corporation and the consultants, no, were not allowed to set foot on Mindanao. So all they did was ride an airplane and do their validation from an airplane without geotagging, without GPS capabilities. So they did one map each, one image scene each of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and they classified these images using maximum likelihood classification method, remote sensing, but their computers that time were still not as advanced as they are now for us. So siguring cellphones ng iba sa atin mas powerful pa than the best computers at that time. So they came out with these classifications, 3 of them. So since hindi sila nakababa sa Mindanao, yun lang yung nakahanapan nila ng mossy forest, yung mismong area na where that scene was in. So may isang patch lang dito sa Mindanao, may mossy forest. They said, well, since we know it's mossy, let's just put it in. But everything else, they had no idea. So that's why in Luzon, Visayas, Palawan, ganyan, everything had a pretty good validation activity. And in 2002, I spearheaded forest cover update for the Philippines. And I consulted my mentor that time. That was 2007 when we did this based on 2002 data. And ang lumabas, ang suggestion ko, and it was agreed by my mentor in Belgium, na we use similar method that was used in 1987, which was really basically visual interpretation by experts. Because if we used more statistical classification methodologies, since kaya na ng computers, malamang you'll be comparing apples with oranges. So that was a very good suggestion. So if you can look here, this is 87, it transitions to 2002. Okay, keep changing. So kita natin dito sa area sa Mindanao, okay, marami yung nakain, ano? And now you have mossy forest in Mindanao finally. Okay, and in a lot of areas, maraming mga nawala. All right. So if we go to the next slide, here we find a comparison of different forest cover estimate or data. So from spot 1987, we have 6 million, almost 7 million hectares of total forest area. Pagdating sa 2002 na ginawa namin, it had gone down by almost 700,000 hectares. But at that time, naglabas din ng FMB ng data nila based on the same images that we used. Kita natin tumaas, no? We presented this to the public, to civil society organizations and conservation groups. And they had serious problems with the increase in forest cover since 1987, when we all know na patuloy yung logging, etc. at the time, and definitely not an increase. So of course, they disregarded that. And one of the reasons why FMB showed an increase was that they redefined what a forest was. Dinagdag nila ang oil palm plantations and other, basically they lowered the standard of what was a forest. So, of course, you have an increase kasi ang dami mo na ibang sinama. So, yeah, and just goes to show that importante talaga ang method natin and consistency when we're doing our work. So in 2005, the local government of Bukidnon contracted us, I used to work with the Environmental Science for Social Change. Sorry, I forgot to explain the different organizations involved in this initiative early in the first slide. But we were contracted by the provincial government to do a land cover update assessment of Bukidnon Province, the first of its kind, not only in Bukidnon, but in the Philippines at that kind of resolution. So we had we extracted 22 land cover classes. We did aerial and ground validations. The aerial validations we did, we really rode on a plane. And since wala pang geotagging noon, I had to devise a method to relate the photos that you're taking with the GPS that we had, a handheld GPS that we had at that time. So the trick I found was to synchronize the clocks. Kasi GPS clock gets synchronized in real time. But for our digital cameras at that time, if you synchronize it with the GPS at exactly the time that you're leaving for your flight, you have the same readings of the clocks for your GPS points and for your photos. So then there was a basis to link the time, the GPS time, with where the photo was taken. So, and yeah, it was turned out to be a very good method. And here you find we had a pretty good ground and aerial surveys at that time. So we used DNR definitions of forest and other land use classes, land cover classes. So they had the mossy forest, very well defined, primary forest, secondary forest. And it was based on DNR Memorandum Circular 2005-05. And other definitions we also used from other sources, so plantation forest, other wooded lands. Sa FAO actually nanggaling yung much of these definitions. Other land with tree cover, we have less than 5% of cover for other lands. It includes agricultural, pastures, built-up areas, bare areas, grasslands, etc. Perennial crops and annual crops. So it was really a challenge, and it was my colleagues in Belgium were telling me it's a nightmare to do that, Andres, because you have corn that's at least there it's synchronized kung kailan na agriculture nila synchronized ang growing, no? When you have because you have a very short window for your crops. For the Philippines, I can plant now, and right beside that merong ready to harvest na corn, for example. So it's really mind-blowing, sabi nila. Good luck with that. So anyway, we did our best. So these are the different classes that we were able to capture at that time. And here is the map representing that. So for mossy forest, yung pinakamalaki for Bukidnon, no? We had the dark green, and then we had some patches of primary forest. Not a lot because we went through quite a bit of logging. And mossy forest, as we all know, is high altitude forest. They may be the same species as the lowland primary forest. However, stunted ang growth nila because of the high elevation. So it's not really practical for timber production, no? And then you have the secondary forest, which is quite big as well. And then you had pine plantations, different mangium plantation forests here, the blue parts. And then you have shrubland, other land with tree cover. You have grassland, quite a bit of grassland that time. For those of you who've been to Bukidnon, alam nyo na maraming sugarcane. This was really introduced in the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 80s, sorry, by Zubiris coming from Negros. And then you also have corn, irrigated rice here in areas here where the flat parts are. And then you have perennial crops. You have pineapple, of course. Bukidnon is known for the Del Monte plantations. You have rubber, banana, coconut, some mango at that time na nawala na eventually. And at that time, we had 56 hectares of oil palm plantations. Okay, so this is how it looked like in 2005, no? After so many years, yung partners namin sa local government ng Bukidnon sa province, the Bukidnon Environment Natural Resources Office, told me, Andres, we need an update already. It's been 13 years. So sige, I looked for funding. One thing that frustrated me in 2005 data was that hindi pinamudmod ni Governor Zubiri yung data sa mga local governments. I wanted that data to be shared to all LGUs, the GIS data, because, or the maps even, no? Because they were supposed to use that for their CLUPs, no? So hindi nangyari. And I was a bit, nagtampo talaga ako in terms of that, no? But what can I do? They funded it. So I found my own funding. And for my own funding, from the Forest Foundation Philippines, I made it sure na kasama sa kontrata doon was we will give out the data not only in digital format, we'd produce very good maps and distribute it all over the province kahit kanino na gusto or makakagamit lang. So there, for this time, we used Sentinel data, Sentinel from the European Space Agency, from the Copernicus program ng ESA. And we had 2 satellites that were circling the Earth at 10 days each. So they were opposite. So naging every 5 days na lang yung revisit period. Very good resolution. And then we processed it using ESA's Cento-Agri protocol, which was developed by yung mentor ko in Belgium, no? He was the one who led the consortium to develop the Cento-Agri protocol, which was basically a very easy way to classify your images. It was really a collection of all the research that their lab did for many years already. So it used drone and ground validation also, yung dun sa methodology namin. Okay. So field data gathering, we had ground surveys. Look at the mga pineapple. At the background, you have the rubber trees. You had the sugarcane. You have corn in the marginal uplands. And here you have irrigated rice alongside corn, maliliit na patches. It's really a nightmare for a classification to be done. No? Here you have the rice fields as well, and more rice fields near Bukidnon. Sorry, near Malaybalay in Valencia. Here you have sugarcane in the southern parts of Bukidnon. Okay, and corn again, and some shrublands and scrub in the background there, and grasslands. And you have the rivers, of course, and the roads, etc. So we also utilize drones, yung EP drone. This is really a very useful tool for us, especially for areas na mahirap na kaming pasukin. So it's like an aerial photography small scale aerial photography na siya. Well, actually not small. It can really cover a big area. So
wala na saba, no?
this is the first run na ginawa namin for the drone.
Nara na siya karon mosaka sa almost 800. Kamulo pang ga video na.
So you can imagine with these current tools, it was really much easier to do the validation. So in 2018, we came out with this. The nice thing about, or the good thing about doing it ourselves is we did 2018, in 2005. And then we also did it 2018. So there was a deliberate, conscious effort to make the outputs comparable and use very similar. We use the same land cover classes. Of course, nag-iba na siya, no? But there was a conscious effort to make the two data sets comparable. So if we compare the two data sets, 2005 and 2018, there's quite a bit of difference. We increased our corn production here in this part and here as well, no? Nag-expand yung sugar natin. Our pineapple basically stayed the same almost. The corn here medyo nabawasan. We had nabawasan din yung ating plantations, tree plantations here. Our rice has expanded into other areas as well. But one thing you notice is grasslands decreased quite a bit. And one of the reasons why is that when we took the land cover images from 2005, isang beses lang yun. You had to rely on one image, classify that statistically, get training data for the single images for the different areas. Now, for 2018, with the Send2Agri protocol developed by UCL, ang basis nila is not just one image, it's a season of images. Kasi sayang, you have so much information already, no? Every 5 days may bago ka. Okay, may cloud cover doon sa ibang areas. But in some areas, good. Okay, sige. And then you can actually yung land cover, yung images na kinukuha mo in way back, no, in 2005, kailan ba walang clouds? During the summer, di ba? So the summer, a lot of areas are fallow and they appear as grassland. But here, since you have a season of images, you're not limited to the grasslands na lang na isang image. So the grasslands eventually during the summer will become either corn or sugar cane or cassava, etc. So mas naging rich yung classification 2018. But forest cover-wise, it's pretty much the same for both in terms of the kind of information that you will find on both. It's pretty reliable. So here are the different, it is a table of showing us comparison of land cover in 2005-2018. So so just note that ang images natin summer lang sa 2005. Sa land cover in Bukidnon, we have a season of images. You can say na 6 months. Okay, so isang cropping cycle, for example. So you're not limited to one slice in time. So here, mossy forest, nag-decrease. So ang important to note the forest areas, no? There was a decrease in the natural forest. Yeah, 25,000 hectares, naging 15 na lang. Secondary forest increased. Why? Because from primary, pag nag-clear ka ng, or nag-log ka dyan, the primary turns to secondary. So, nag-increase ang secondary forest natin. Oops. Our plantation for trees, nag-decrease din. Oops, sorry. Pine plantations also decreased. We have other land with tree cover that increased. Okay, nagkaroon tayo ng increase sa mga plantations, tree plantation. And then shrublands had a decrease as well. And grasslands, as I said earlier, a significant decrease. Okay, so halos 80,000 hectares ang 80,000 hectares. Teka, sorry, more than 100,000 hectares decrease, 119,000. So that's due to the phenomena I explained earlier. Then perennial crops, we had pineapple nag-increase ng 33%, rubber 468%, banana 200 nag-twice, mixed coconut 4 times, mango nawala. Okay, we didn't consider mango anymore. Oil palm 3,820%. So talagang lumaki ang oil palm plantations natin. Now, as we go to annual crops, nag-increase din sila. Mainly because yung grasslands na nakita natin dati were properly converted, or at least properly assigned their crops. So we had sugarcane increase, corn halos dumoble, sugar corn, ang rice more than twice, tapos cassava, nawala yung high value crops na na-capture namin dati. Then you have all these other urbanization built up areas, etc. Okay. Now, itong roads and rivers, these are minor things. We just used what do you call this? Hindi na kami nag-classify for this part. We just used because we just had our own data from OpenStreetMap, for example, etc. So mas reliable siya than the classification itself. Okay, just a quick run through. The forest, this is a presentation of the forest, no? Or sorry, the tree cover of the province. So if you look at this simple Venn diagram, the green is what remained between the 2 years of 2005 and 2018. The red was what was lost. So dating nandun pero wala na by 2018. Now the purple is what wasn't there but in 2018 nandun na. Okay, so if you look at this, there's a net overall tree cover gain of 24,000 hectares in the province, which is really good, diba? However, if we broke it down, since we have all the data we need, if we break it down, natural forest lang, tingnan lang natin sa mapa, ang daming pula compared sa purple. Bakit? We actually lost natural forest significantly, no? 13,000 hectares. So from natural forest na itong malaking circle na ito, lumiit siya. So the green is what remained, which is good. At least we still have that big chunk of green. However, we did lose natural forests, and then compared to what we actually gained. So yun, it's very revealing. Now next, we go to the other tree cover na hindi natural, to mga planted trees. That's where we did gain quite a bit compared to what was lost. So what's different about this type of tree cover is that it's something that people will eventually harvest, no? Kasi nagtatanim ka ng ganitong klaseng trees for plantations, so you can make money. It's like a crop. So nakita natin konti lang yung unchanged niyan. So it's really a very dynamic, volatile type of tree cover, which is not really good for the environment if we look at it. Now we have corn in the Philippine uplands. In the Bukidnon uplands. Since we were able to map between the 2 years, but here lang looking at 2018 data, we were able to also using digital elevation models calculate upland areas, areas above 18% and above 100 meters in elevation, 18% slope. So that's the yellow. Tapat namin yung corn dyan. So anything that fell into the upland areas became red, and those who were not upland were the cyan colors. So just look at the kind of landscape in Bukidnon, like in Cabanglasan, in this area. Kita natin yung corn is really planted in the marginal areas, yung mga steeply sloping areas na. Of course, with the new technology now of corn cultivation na sinispray mo ng herbicide, glyphosate, and all, wala nang ibang tumutubo dyan kundi yung corn kasi immune siya sa herbicide, no? Sa chemicals na nalagay mo. So you destroy the natural structure of the soil because wala na ibang nabubuhay dyan kundi yung corn root. So it's not really designed to hold it. So we have even a monument in Cabanglasan that was erected by the mayor to celebrate the corn in his municipality, which, you know, if you knew what was happening, it's not really a good sign anyway. So here also in other portions, Kalilangan, Pangantukan, grabe rin yung expansions ng corn. So it's, you know, these are the things that really, I'm not even telling you about the another aspect of the research that we did, which was looking at the dynamics of corn, the socioeconomic impacts on the farmers of the corn industry, the small farmers. It's really appalling, but that's for another talk. So important lessons that we learned: the accuracy of the outputs are dependent on the quality and quantity of the field data points. So of course, in any activity of classification, kailangan talaga natin ng magandang quality na data. Different methods produce different outputs. That's why we had to stick to, we have to be very careful about the outputs, okay? So, and also, that's why you have less grasslands. We have to know why nawala ang grasslands natin sa 2018, etc. So these things have to be factored in. Open documentation of the process is key to the validity of the outputs. Okay, a lot of the time, like government just spews out data. Okay, hindi sinasabi kung bakit, it's a black box. We know that this the Cento Agri protocol is an open source protocol, so anyone can validate it, and even the process we documented is open. And local stakeholders need to be involved in the process, in the data gathering, especially in the validation stage. And local stakeholders have to be given access to the output data as well. Otherwise, it will not serve its purpose. No, parang nandyan lang, like the typical old style na nasa libro lang sa library. Here, it's sitting in a hard disk somewhere. So we had to fan it out. And then potential users needed to be provided with the skills and tools in GIS to use the data. So what we also did during pandemic was we launched the data online, which is online means by Zoom. So this is Pierre Defourny. He's my mentor in remote sensing. And then we had we presented the information, etc. It was very good. It was a very good panel discussion that time. And then we also did it for Isabela. We did the same thing for Isabela, although wala kaming previous data sa Isabela. So we just did a land cover update for, land cover assessment for Isabela. So I invited Dr. Stefan Kienberger, a friend of mine from Salzburg. Tapos, we had different people talking at the same time. Also in that conference, online conference. And we got the local people to participate, no? Si Merline Van Weerd's Mabuaya Foundation. We also had the local government, provincial of the provincial government of Isabela, also the planning officer. So it was good. Now, with the technology, we want to bridge the cultural divide as well. So real data is indispensable for resource management, but it is not available to those who are supposed to benefit from it. So access is limited, usage tools and support are not available. Research silos in the respective disciplines are also a problem, no? Kasi hindi na-integrate yung information, yung knowledge. And finally, ownership perception of data is also not, or ownership or the perception of the data is not shared among the groups. So what I did was, okay, let's get everyone together, tell us what's wrong with the initial outputs that we produce, the drafts. So everyone just told us, oh, malito, ganyan, ganyan. Because that's the only way that people will say that, okay, I was participating in this and they incorporated our suggestions. So let's use that because it's ours as well. So it's a shared experience of the data. So it was very good strategy. We did it in 2005 as well, no? We found it very so. Ang bad thing lang sa 2005, hindi na maipinamudmud yung data. Here, pinamudmud na namin. And talagang pamudmud, as in, we produced high quality maps. These Sintra board maps talagang magaganda. Talagang pwede mong i-frame, ilagay sa local governments. When we gave each local government their municipality 10 maps of their municipality, they can put it in the planning, the mayor's office, in the different DRR office, etc. So, and then we all gave them a Bukidnon map as well. We even gave NPC, National Power Corporation, because they have a dam there, the congressmen, and women of Bukidnon, binigyan namin lahat. So even the pineapple corporations and the banana corporations, we gave them all. It was all part of the project. And now it's used in Bukidnon. It's the de facto standard for land cover in 2018. And what's nice about it is that everyone is, when they talk about land cover and they're measuring stuff, they're on the same page because they all have the same data set. Kahit gobyerno na mandated gumamit ng NAMRIA, sabi nila, okay, we'll do that, but we want to use this pag uusap na tayo ng what's on the ground. So yeah, I'll skip this. We have no more time. So there, I will end now. I'm sorry I took a bit too long, but I think we have around 15 minutes, 10 minutes for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ignacio. At this point, we will be looking at our chat box for questions. There might be some of you who would also like to turn on your microphone if you would like to ask our speaker directly. So please use the chat box, or maybe you can raise your hand so we could acknowledge you if you want to speak.
Sabi ko sa students ko, mag-question sila.
Yung mga students ni Sir required kayo magtanong.
Hindi naman, hindi naman. For extra points. Joke.
All right. So anyone could, throw in their questions and Sir Andres will be responding to your inquiry. Otherwise, I'll be the first to ask. O yan, meron tayong question, sir.
Okay.
Sa ating chat box. This is from Dr. Anakta. How different or similar was your classification with the FMD? It was not clear to me about FMD's classification that there was 0% of mossy forest.
One thing you can do is probably go back to that slide. Oops, sorry. Sorry, that was FMB, that was the Philippines, ano?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, here. So, wala silang mossy dun sa classification nila, which is a limitation, no? They did not adhere to the 1987 classification. So wala na kami magagawa doon. They limited their classification to these other forest cover classes. Now, of course, it's a bit surprising, and technically, because ang tendency is to ang tendency kasi ng gobyerno would be to try to show that meron talagang output or meron talagang nagagawa. So that's may positive, because there's reforestation budget during the 80s and 90s was really so big, no? But the success rate was really so small. And at that time, ang mga binibigay, ang mga tinatanim din are not really forest trees. Even the mandated reforestation was only yung mga exotic species, fast growing, kasi madaling ma-validate. Oy, lumalaki na, mas madaling makita kasi ma-fast growing, but they're not really endemic there. Now, iba na yung paradigm, no? But of course, this is I'm referring to decades ago. So yeah, it's what method was easier to gather sufficient data, stakeholder validation, data requests from agencies or organizations? Teka ha. Wait. So si Vanessa, join mo na. How different, similar? So, ang classification na ginamit nila was different. They did not use what they call this, visual interpretation. Gumamit din sila ng what they call this, computer statistical methodologies. So remote sensing applications ang ginamit. So of course, they really have major differences. Bernice, considering how crucial it is to monitor the state of resources, such as, sorry, I'll read it na lang ha. Such as forest and land cover, what steps have current technology contributed in easing this difficulty? For example, have there been instances of where land use had been constantly, frequently monitored by drones and RS? Mahirap ang monitoring ng land cover at a large scale, no, using drones. But remote sensing, yes, there are attempts. Actually, that was the last slide. Let me just show. Sorry, it's very informative and interesting. Oops, sorry. Okay, I'm showing this slide. This is the Lake Lanao Agos River watershed or river basin. Bukidnon is this side, not the right side. Look at the dates, the years here, no? It starts from 2000. Okay, magsa-cycle yan. Tama, hindi siya nagsa-cycle, sorry. Let's go back. Ayan, 2001, 3, 4, 5. Watch the red. The red is the forest cover loss. Okay. Ito yung road. This, yeah, this is the road from Bukidnon to Lanao going to Marawi City. Okay. It was opened formally in 2016. So from 2002, wala, no? 5, 6, 7. Tapos may minimal road incursion, etc. Eventually, someone decided we need a highway. Back 2016, binuksan yung road. Look what happened. In a matter of a few years, a lot of the old growth forests were lost. So yeah, remote sensing can really tell a very, it really gives a very telling story in terms of we make decisions on the ground, well, from the top down, but the repercussions di natin nakita. And here it's so obvious for us, no? Seeing how much destruction. I showed this to Secretary Loizaga in a forum in Mindanao, no? She's a friend of mine as well. Sa observatory siya dati. And sabi, Andres, I need your slides. We're going to talk to uh, DPWH. Ano ba itong mga ginagawa ninyo? You're crisscrossing the island with so many, or the Philippines with so many roads. Okay, but ano yung cost nito sa environment? So yan, in your experience, what method was easier to gather sufficient data, stakeholder validation, or data requests from agents? I think it was easier to get it from the stakeholders. Yung mga local government, if they're involved and you really spend time with them, they're very much willing to contribute. Lalo na pagka feeling nila kasama sila sa proseso. Mahirap kasi natanggapin na yung output mo, pag wala sila doon sa proseso, sabihin nila, kanila yan, hindi naman yan amin. Diba? It's a very basic psychology na rin. I hope I answered your question, Bernice. RV, may initiatives na po ba to institutionalize or i-adapt ng NAMRIA ang this kind of land use mapping? Actually, the NAMRIA, in fairness, used to be militarized kasi mga generals or laging head ng NAMRIA. So it was so difficult in the 80s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, na kumuha ng data sa NAMRIA. It was so difficult. Parang treatment nila sa ganito cartographic data, geographic data was it's hands off. Sila lang. Parang parang national security. Since lumalabas na ngayon na ang dami nang pwedeng mag-remote sensing, daming free data, etc. Nag-attempt na rin ang NAMRIA from 2010 or around the last decade to open up, no? Nilalabas nila ang 2010 land cover, 2015, I think 2020 nilabas nila recently. But wala silang, they don't have the resources to actually go on the ground to make a very detailed classification. What happened last one time, I remember some years ago, I was invited to Cagayan de Oro for a regional validation, which is already an attempt, no? So I commended them. Sabi ko, malaking bagay ito na feeling na rin na nakakontribute sila. Tapos doon sa Mount Kitanglad, napansin ko doon sa kanilang draft, nawala yung gubat. Sabi ko, ano nangyari dito? Nakita ko ito araw-araw pag nandyan ako sa, I come from Malaybalay, no? I migrated there. Sabi nila, sir, kasi cloud cover dun sa image. Sabi ko, ibig sabihin na wala na yon dahil may cloud cover. I mean, di ba, parang low. Pero anyway, the limitations then. But during our fora, naalala niyo yung dalawang online fora, I invited the NAMRIA to also give their message, and they really appreciate that. You cannot also discredit or distance yourself too much from government. You have to be more inclusive. Otherwise, ano mangyayari, di ba? We have to find a win-win for everyone. Sorry, okay. Elise, ano po yung sources po ninyo for data to create these land cover maps? Meron po ba sa NAMRIA? Na-conduct po ba kayo ng sarili ninyong RS? Yes, this was all conducted by us, primary data. Well, the data gathered from Sentinel satellite images. 10 meters, yes, very accurate yung data for this. Open access ang shapefiles, yes, we have a website where you can magre-register ka lang and you can download all the data that you feel you need, no, for whatever area, for the whole province, etc. So we did the same for Isabela as well. Oops, nawala kayo. Okay. Let me read again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There's one more comment from Jubil Piol.
Sir, Is temporal land use monitoring crucial in terms of augmenting, improving existing land use policies or regulation? And if so, ilang years po ang interval? Okay. Yes, it is very important, I think, to do regular updates. Otherwise, hindi natin nakukuha yung trajectories ng land use change. Sometimes, importante malaman na, uy, sobra na yung, like in the Bukidnon example I showed, no? May red areas tayong nilagay doon na nawala yung forest. So, okay, local government will then, or local DNR, whatever, sabihin, oh, hotspot. We have to focus our efforts. We can't focus our efforts equally on every square kilometer here. But here, we're now guided. Alam na natin kung anong areas yung tututukan natin. And I would feel that the ideal period for land cover updates would be 5 years at least, no? Kasi dyan may kita mo na meron talagang significant na pwede mo pang ma-arrest pag merong problem na nakikita. Okay, did I answer the questions? Please let me know.
Yes, sir. All of the questions sa chat box po natin have been addressed. There might be other comments or questions from other students, other participants.
Leo, last question. In the process of collecting, verifying, and generating the maps, how are the locals, for example, the IP communities residents, integrated in the methodology po? Also po, for you, how important are their local knowledge po sa mga klase na maps na ito? Okay. This is a level of mapping that had to be all-encompassing. For the local government and for the line agencies to be able to do something. But we also have a very specific approach with with indigenous groups, mga ancestral domain areas. No, we let them. Sometimes there's one area that we work in na yung kanilang classifications ng forest nila are not the same as government. Okay, mas marami silang subclasses ng forest. So what we had to do was to adapt the forest classifications doon sa kanila. So mas rich yung kanila, pero pagdating na sa government and the mainstream classification, okay, pag mosi itong dalawa, na indigenous class yung ilalagay natin dyan. Tapos pagka itong secondary ito, tsaka meron pang sub-secondary sa kanila. Yung mga ganon. So, yes, we have to, especially pagdating na sa local, and each local area, local community has their own way of managing or looking at their ancestral domain. So, medyo iba-iba yung approach. That's why we promote an community-based approaches na very specific sa mga areas that they are actually in. So hindi pwedeng one size fits all pagdating sa indigenous communities. So yeah, that's how we try to do it, no? Their local knowledge have to be respected. And hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na mali yung ginagawa nila because they're the ones who live there, they're the ones who relate with their local environment, no? And they're the ones who will manage it de facto, hindi tayo kasi tagalabas naman talaga tayong lahat, no? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, it's the same question and I hope I answered that. Tama ba?
Yes, sir. Apo. Okay, so wala na po ba tayong questions or anything that you'd like to comment? Or siguro, before we move on to the next part of the program, I'm calling for other participants to ask questions for the last time.
Last call.
last call for questions. Tama, sir. Okay. All right. So I guess that's it. Siyempre, we can also reach out to Sir Andres naman after this lecture if we have other questions in mind, or maybe if you want to consult him with respect to your research then, no, and similar parang interests, you can always approach Dr. Ignacio.
Just at Popeye.
Yes. Okay. So moving on to the next part of our program. Thank you again, sir, for a very insightful discussion. And thank you also to our participants for asking those questions. At this point, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation to our speaker. Allow me to read our certificate of appreciation for Dr. Jose Andres Ignacio for the valuable insights and expertise shared as virtual resource speaker for the talk, Tackling Land Use Change Impacts on the Land and its People, the case of Bukidnon Province in the Southern Philippines, as part of the Geo Lecture Series 2023 held on October 6, 2023. The certificate is signed by the Chair of the Department of Geography, Dr. Joseph Palis, and the President of the Philippine Geographical Society, Professor Emmanuel Garcia. So again, sir, marami pong salamat for taking time to join us.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, sir. All right, so this is the part when, we will be closing our session soon. But before that happens, let's have Professor Joseph Palis for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Oni. Thank you very much, Dr. Ignacio, for that wonderful talk. It's rare that we get the chance to listen to this type of presentation in our lecture series, and there's 53 people who are here today to listen to your talk. And this is also being recorded. I'd just like to maybe comment, or maybe just say a few words about some of the things that Dr. Ignacio shared with us that I feel like I wanted to emphasize more, just because I feel like they're important, at least to me. I find this very interesting also about the politics of mapping. When you go there and do some mapping in order to generate data for consumption of the public, it is also wrought with a lot of obstacles in terms of how the data is shared. So sometimes there's this question about access to information. And I'm so happy to hear that Dr. Ignacio himself, along with his other colleagues, have taken some pains in order to make some of this data available. We always wanted to have this data with us to make informed decisions. I was particularly struck by that comment you made about I don't want to say inconsistency, but more like a kind of mismatch of some of the data gathered by the state government and your organization in terms of forest, and knowing also what's behind it, like the expanding the classification of forest, to make it more, to make the data look more robust. Is interesting to know, even if intuitively I kind of know that that's gonna happen, or it has happened. And I think someone mentioned also about, and I like to bring this up as well, about local knowledge, because this is co-production, co-creation of knowledge that we wanted to promote, not just in the social sciences but in critical human geography. And it's so interesting to see that the voices of the people who live in the area, who are mostly going to be the frontliners when it comes to uh, being affected or being vulnerable to some of these disaster related occurrences, have a much richer vocabulary to describe their environment. And of course, that's obvious, having having lived there for some time and having more stories to generate. So thank you very much, Dr. Ignacio, for this talk. And I hope, like what Oni mentioned, there will be some interest to develop this into a much more a lengthier exposition for student research or undergraduate theses. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to mention that there are a few more talks that's coming our way, and one is coming on Tuesday. This is after the reading break. It's a Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Mars Briones from UP Tacloban, who is now based in University of Cologne, is going to give a talk about tides and islands, between islands through storied sea, tidal dialectics in the Santo Niño de Tacloban's narratives of origin. It's gonna happen 5:30 p.m. Dr. Jelly Galang from the Department of History comes next in November with Chinese criminals in the frontier in Spanish Philippines, which draws from his dissertation, which he completed in Murdoch University in Australia. And there will be two more that's coming our way sometime in late November and early December. So just a sense of what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Joseph. And if you want to watch our past lectures, they are uploaded in the UP Department of Geography YouTube channel. You can also visit our channel to watch the previous lectures. And we will be uploading this very soon.